Steve, it's slowed down and it's 1:03 p.m. I will go ahead and mute everyone and just remind you that we are recording, and I'll erase personal health information except what appears in the invocation. That kind of ruins the invocation if I try to take it out of there. So just throw that out. So Steve, everyone is muted and it's in your court.
All right, welcome everyone. And we still have a few folks joining, so I hope that'll continue to happen. We've been averaging about 30 people, or maybe a little over 30 the last couple of months. So it's good to see everybody. Well, George, we'll turn it over to you for our invocation.
Let us join in prayer. God, the author of life and life of quality, abundant life, we began our Rotary Fellowship in the spirit of thanksgiving. You have guided each of us through more than a year of COVID fear and this disease's pernicious presence all around us. With compassion do we remember our friends and acquaintances and even members of some of our families who've been victims of this scourge. Through it all, you have never abandoned any of us. You have been present as a spirit of compassion for those lying on beds of affliction. You have been the spirit of wisdom, inspiring scientists to develop a variety of effective vaccinations that have begun to reduce the spread of the infection and thereby saving the lives of countless thousands here and abroad. You are truly the God of healing and hope. We pray for your deliverance from the threat of this coronavirus. During these several months, we have met as friends and colleagues through Zoom. We're far more than just faces contained in little boxes upon a computer screen. We truly respect, admire, and cherish one another. Thank you for these friendships. Thank you for the advent of spring, the greening of grass, the appearance of colorful flowers, and the smiles of promise upon our faces today. Guide us in the work of Rotary as we place service above self and we continue the fight against polio and the coronavirus. Hear our prayers of intercession for those who have faced illness. Especially to remember Steve Brown and pray for progress in his life. We pray for Paula's father and for her in her trip to be with him and her family. Bless all who are in attendance today. Inspire our speaker, Ed Kelley, and guide us all as we seek to make Waynesville and Haywood County a better, more equitable place to live. We pray in your holy name, and we can all say together, Amen.
Thank you, George. And this month's Sergeant at Arms is Paul Irvin, so call on him to do our Pledge of Allegiance. And
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I don't have my screen up, so if you would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, and I wish you would put your hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me in the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Paul. Happy dollars.
I've got $5 if you can still hear me. And that's to wish yesterday our young man who prayed us in, I think that was his birthday. Is that, or was it last week?
It was yesterday.
Well, happy birthday to you, George.
Any other happy dollars? I'll put in $5 for Steve Brown's successful surgery. Anyone else for happy dollars today?
Steve, I'll put in $5. There were four Rotarians at Habitat for Humanity this morning at the Walton Woods site, finishing up the landscaping, and we had a great presence there, and it certainly is something that we have shown a commitment to over the years and continue to do so.
Was that 4 Waynesville Rotarians or 4 Rotarians from the county?
It was for Waynesville Rotarians, 4 Waynesville Rotarians: Karen Denny, Ed LaFontaine. Help me, Ed. Who am I missing? Oh,
Jamie Shepherd.
of course. Jamie.
How soon we forget?
Yeah. And myself. So
Very good.
And Rick, we'll see you at the next one.
All right, very good. Announcements. I received a notice a few weeks ago that I didn't bring up at the time, but our club began as a club in February 18th, 1925. So a little bit less than 4 years from now, we'll be celebrating the 100th anniversary. So I think that should be a big expectation down the road to do that. Also, there's something today I saw online about World Vaccination Week, which is coming up the 24th of April. And I didn't get a chance to read all of it, but if it comes through your computer, take time and read it, because what they're asking us to do is to shed light on what is the real truth about vaccinations, and to dispel some of the things that have been, some of the scary things that people have spread around. And that's all I have for announcements today. Anybody else have an announcement? I don't see anybody making any motions. So we're going to have an extra time for our program today. Hope you brought a lot of pictures. Let's see, who's the chairman of programs this month? Oh, Chuck Brown. Chuck, will you introduce Ed?
Absolutely. I've known Ed for about 30 years, I would guess. And I'm just real excited about him being here today to share with us.
I don't know what I'm going to share, but I'll have something to share sooner or later, I guess.
Ed is the former owner of the Ridge Runner Naturals. He's married to Ed Kelley, a local artist who's known not only through our region, but across the country. And Ed is a nature photographer, an artist himself, and has extensive knowledge of the mountains in which we live. And today he's going to show us some of his photography and share his knowledge about our mountains. And I'm just really excited and glad you all could be here. Thanks, Ed, for coming and sharing with us.
My pleasure. Am I ready to go here? I will just preface this. I want to show you one photograph here. If I can bring it up on my screen.
Ed,
yes, can you hear me?
you have more than one microphone on.
Yeah.
You might cut yourself down to one microphone to improve audio.
Okay, let's do this. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, I was born here in Haywood County, and I have come from a fairly long line of Haywood County natives. My great, 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 great grandfather was Bennett, or some people pronounce it Winet, Fine, who Fines Creek was named after. He was born in New Jersey, believe it or not, but he came down here and he was born in 1755, and he came and actually he settled in eastern Tennessee, probably around the Newport Del Rio area or something like that. And he, the story goes that some Indians, I don't know, if it was Cherokee or whatever, but some Indians came and stole his horses. And he and some other men went to find those horses, went to track the Indians down, and in the process, they were ambushed, and he was killed. And that was in 1783. And the area where he was killed used to be called Crystal Creek, and which is now Fines Creek, and that's why they named it Fines Creek. The men with him, as the story goes, and evidently they didn't have horses because the Indians had their horses. They couldn't take him back for a proper burial to East Tennessee, so they left him in the creek there under the ice, thinking that would preserve his body and they could come back and retrieve it later and give him proper burial. And of course, they came back and never found the body. So, who knows if it washed down or if the wolves ate it or what. But that was how Fines Creek got its name, and that's part of my lineage here in Haywood County. I'm going to switch over to a screen here. I want to show you this photo that popped up. Can you see that? Oh, wait a minute. I have to hit share. Okay. Here we go. Can you see that? Can you see the photo?
Yeah, we got it.
Oh, okay. I can't hear you because I guess everybody's moving. So the man with the fiddle is my great granddaddy. His name was James Silas Kirkpatrick. They called him Jim. And the man in the big hat back there is his father, which would be my great grandfather. His name is Jasper Kirkpatrick. And then Bob Justice, the man with the banjo here, is a cousin. And then there's also Will Kirkpatrick and Neen Kirkpatrick. So there's pretty much the whole Kirkpatrick clan. And this was down on Fines Creek. I don't know when this photo was taken, but a good while back. And of course, it looks like they're having a corn shuck in there. And one of the stories that my grandmother used to tell me about this, about her grandfather, was that her father was that Bascom Lamar Lunsford. If you're familiar with him, he was one of the song catchers, the song collectors that went through the mountains of western North Carolina and would go to all the musicians around that he could find and learn their songs. And of course, he had a big festival over in Asheville for a while. But Lunsford would come to my granddad's house while he was flue curing tobacco. I guess they didn't do burley back then, but it was just so they used flues. We would stay up all night long playing music with my granddad while they kept the fires going in to cure the tobacco. So anyway, if anybody has any questions about me being a Haywood County native, I think that should resolve all those questions there. It's interesting though that I did not. I don't. Is that screen still being shared? I can't.
Ed, can you hear me?
So do I need to start over at all? I mean,
I'll summarize. You're a poor boy born in southern Alabama, and you played college football at the University of Alaska.
That's right. And somehow I ended up here in Haywood County.
You got here as
Yeah.
fast as you could.
So anyway, I am from Haywood County. I've lived here all my life, and one of the things that I didn't get a real much of an exposure to the mountains. I grew up in Waynesville. I was not far from downtown, and went to church and school right there within 2 miles of my house. And I didn't know what was out there. I didn't have a clue. And, I could see the mountains when I looked around. And in the first or second grade, one of my friends told me Frankenstein and Wolfman lived up on Eagle's Nest, and that scared me to death. And I couldn't get over that, that, wow, I don't want to go up there because Wolfman and Frankenstein live up there. And so finally, a friend of mine, when I was about 16, a friend of mine took me up to Mount Pisgah, and we hiked up there. I had on some little leather moccasins with real thin insoles, which came out during the process. I had a little piece of leather on my feet. I hiked all the way up to the top of Mount Pisgah and was just blown away. It was just like, here's this whole different world that I did not even know existed till I was in my teens. Well, the Parkway was here. Well, we didn't ride on the Parkway because my mom was paranoid about heights and just, scared to death. So we didn't go up there. So anyway, that just sort of started the ball rolling, and I started doing a lot of camping and eventually some hiking. And finally I bought an old cheap backpack, which I loaded down with stuff, and it would cut into my shoulders because it had little thin straps that ran across through there. But I loved every minute of it. Even when I got wet in my sleeping bag and just had to deal with cold weather and wet weather and all of that. I don't know why. I just loved it. I was in my element. And so I decided that, I have to somehow or another show people what I'm seeing, because I'm not seeing anybody out here doing what I'm doing. So evidently, nobody really knows a whole lot about what's going on here. So I decided to start taking photographs, and I bought my folks got it for Christmas, an old Canon FX 35 millimeter camera, which is basically a manual camera. Most of the cameras now that you look through, you see all this stuff inside, meters, flashing lights, all focus screen and everything. All I had was a focus screen. The meter was attached to the camera, but it was not through the lens. So I had to use the external meter, and I would hold my camera up and move it around and see what the meter was doing. And then I would have to decide on settings, f-stop and shutter speed based on the film I had in there. So I shot a lot of Kodachrome, slide film, and Ektachrome. And then in college, I was chosen to be one of the yearbook photographers, and which was fun, but I had to start. It was kind of like starting from scratch because I was shooting black and white, and I had to learn how to take pictures of people and develop them. And I was able to use the school's darkroom there, so I learned a lot about. I did all my own processing, developed my own film, processed all of the images, printed them, and got paid for the ones they used in the yearbook. So it's always fun to go back and look through that. But so during all of this time, though, I was out hiking and exploring in the woods. And one of the things that I like to do, and I found a friend who liked to do this too, and a couple of friends maybe. Not everybody likes to do this, but we would do bushwhacking. Basically, we would go places where there were no trails. We would identify a ridge. Say, for example, you could look up. You could look on up on the Parkway. We could drive the Parkway. We could see. Well, there's a ridge that runs there. There's a ridge that runs down there. We could walk that ridge, So we took out with our packs and we didn't know if what we're going to run into. It was no trail. I walked all the way from the Parkway down to Waynesville a couple of times, well, down and back. And I've done a lot of off-trail work, hiking in Shining Rock, and I worked at Mount Mitchell for a while, so I learned that area real well. So I didn't need trails. I was just all over the place up there. And all this time I was carrying that 35 millimeter camera loaded with Kodachrome slide film and a couple of lenses. It was like a 28 millimeter wide angle and a 50 millimeter normal lens and a 125 millimeter telephoto. That's all I had to work with. And I got in the habit of using a tripod, which I think was one of the best things that I ever did for my photography, because I was able to take photos of things, in the dark. I was able to do special effects with water scenes, and I could do some nighttime photography because I was holding my camera still. So, so I learned all that, and I still have a lot of slides. I'd like to digitize some of them, but I just haven't gotten around to that. But and so I would take my camera on different trips that I went on and always take pictures. So long about I guess 2005 or 2006, somewhere in that area, maybe a little earlier, I bought my first digital camera, which was like a 2 megapixel Olympus. And I started having fun with that because I didn't have to send off my film to get it developed. So there wasn't that added cost, The camera itself was not cheap, particularly for the time and for what it could do. But it had a nice little zoom lens on it. And of course it went everywhere with me. And I started learning a little bit more about digital photography. First trip I took it on, I didn't have enough memory. So I had to reduce the size of the pictures that I was taking. So I came back with a bunch of tiny little pictures, and which weren't much good for anything, other than just me looking at them and enjoying them. But that inspired me to up my game. So when they started coming out with some new cameras, I ended up with what I call a crossover digital camera. It had a real nice zoom lens on it. It functioned like an SLR, but was not an SLR. The lens didn't have interchangeable lenses. So I shot several images with that, and I learned how to do panoramas, where you take a multiple number. In fact, if you look up here behind me, that is that is big print right there, is of the waterfall up on 215. And that's probably 4 or 5 images stitched together. So, they have to be taken properly and overlapped. And then whenever you the software will stitch them together for you and make everything match up. So you end up with a great big image that you can print very large. So I, love doing that. I have a lot of panoramas that I took with that. And so finally I just said, well, it's time to get a DSLR. So I did that. And I had all the lenses from 10 millimeter all the way up to 500 millimeter. And I didn't carry them all around with me all the time, but I did carry the 500 and usually the wider angles with me, and a tripod. I got a carbon fiber tripod, a big backpack, and I carried a pack that probably weighed 30 pounds just with the camera gear for miles and miles and miles. Now, I was a lot younger then, so that made it a little easier. But so anyway, one of the things that happened to me, and I'm going to show you this if I can get it up here, was, and I'm afraid it's not going to be very big. Let's see if I can zoom it in some. I don't know. Let me go back just a
You
second.
need to share your screen again.
Yes, I'm going to, as soon as I get it up here to the right size. Let's see if that'll work. Nope, that didn't work. Hang on just 1 second. Here we go. This is a very low res image, but you can, I'm sure you will probably recognize this scene here. That's one of the photos that I'm probably most well known for. That was in 2009 when we had 13 inches of heavy, wet snow that stuck on everything. And my wife and I had our store downtown, Ridge Runner Naturals on Main Street. And I kept watching the weather. I had this in mind for a while that I would like to take this photo, you know, with the snow downtown and with the holiday lights all lit up. And so I was watching the weather report and I kept seeing this snowstorm heading our way. And I told my wife, Jo, to bring what she needed to stay the night, that we were not going to try to get back up on the mountain where we live. We were going to stay down in the downtown and in our store, we had a little cot set up, and that I was going to go out at some point and take these pictures. And that's what I did. I waited till about 11 o'clock that night. Fortunately, the power stayed on downtown, but a lot of people lost power during that time. And so I waited till it stopped snowing, because it was snowing so hard. It was so wet. I couldn't really go out there and take pictures in it. It was just like, it would be like trying to photograph in the rain. You know, it was just so wet. It wasn't extremely cold. It was only, 30, right around freezing. And that's why it was so wet. It didn't have time to get, to freeze, but it did turn cold, and it locked everything in. And I took several of these photos, I posted them, just sent them. That was before Facebook. I didn't have any real way to share them other than email. So I just sent them out to a few friends, said, look what I did last night. And the response was overwhelming. They shared it, they shared it, they shared it. And it truly went viral. That's just the only way to say it. It went viral. And so it ended up being something that I had used my skills for, that I hadn't really planned, other than just my plan was, I want to do this for downtown Waynesville. I want to take this image and let them use it for promotion, that sort of thing. And so I made it available to the chamber. I made it available to downtown Waynesville. I've never charged them anything for the use of this. It's been in Southern Living and it's been printed everywhere. So, but in the process, people started coming to my door saying, I want one of those photos. And I'm a nature photographer, and that really didn't, even though that, I guess there's nature involved in that, that's not, it wasn't part of what I had as a concept of what I wanted to do. But finally I relented and I started making prints, and I wish I could tell you how many I sold. I don't know how many, but I know that probably most of y'all have seen that photo somewhere hanging in someone's home or in some business or somewhere. And if you want to go up, if it's still there, if you want to go up to the automotive place up there off of Hyatt Creek in the repair department, there's the biggest one I ever printed is in there in the waiting room. So you can drop in there, see it sometime. But I still wanted to use, I still looked at myself as a nature photographer, and I still do in some ways. I don't necessarily, introduce myself as a photographer anymore. I'm a musician as well. I've played several instruments. I play with Bonafide Band. We're going to be at Frog Level Brewing on May the 1st. So if you want to come out, you can hear what we do. I play fiddle and mandolin with them and do a little harmony singing. And I just have a lot of different creative outlets. I have done some painting. I should have had some of those to show you. I've my wife, of course, inspired me to do some plein air work, which plein air means out in the open air. It's a French, supposedly a French term, and which means painting it on location out in the open air. So she and I did that for a few years, and she's a lot better than me, but I enjoyed it. So I've sold some of my paintings and that sort of thing. But at this point, I'm not really selling any of my photography or my paintings. I'm going to leave that up to Joe. She to do all of the two-dimensional wall hanging art. So I don't even have a website. All I have is my Facebook page to show my photos on. And so I just sort of got out of photography in terms of carrying the big gear around and all of that. I've never did any real commercial photography. That wasn't my interest. It was more, I wanted to do artwork, mainly art photography. And so about 2 years ago, I got my first smartphone, which was a Pixel 2, Google Pixel 2. And the fiddle was one of, I saw that message, but I didn't know what it said. So what I started doing there was using my phone. I found out they had a great camera. So I just started, dwindling off using any kind of real camera, so to speak, and was just blown away by what my phone could do. And so that's basically what I do now. I use my phone. I've had some prints made from it that did very well, printed very well. I think it's like 12 or 13 megapixels. My Pixel 2 crashed out on me finally last October, and I had to get a Pixel 4, which I'm pretty happy with. It doesn't seem to have the close-up ability that the Pixel 2 had, which is a little frustrating for me. But I'll show you some of the photos that I've taken with both my Pixel 2, and I don't know that there's really any difference in quality between them, but I'll give you an idea of some of what can be done with a digital camera. I'm going to go share my screen here, and I'll try to tell you a little bit about each of these photos as I go through. Well, that didn't work good. Let's go back here. Get this back up. I don't know what's happening. It's telling me I have a file system error. That can't be good.
That doesn't sound good.
All right, let's try this again. I don't know why it's taking my picture away every time I try to share. It worked the first time. There we go. Has that got it?
Yes.
Okay, good. You may know what that is. It's Shining Rock. And one of the things that always, when I think about photography, nature photography in particular, and one of the things I tried that I still do, of course, is, you ride the parkway, and there's plenty of great overlooks for photos. And chances are now the best ones, you can go there sometime during a sunrise or a sunset, and there's tons of people there with tons of cameras, and some of them have tripods, some of them have phones. I mean, it's just the photographers are everywhere. So one of the things I think that helps to set me apart a little bit as a nature photographer is that I go out into the woods and into the forests and look for things to photograph. And some of them are iconic scenes, like this Shining Rock scene. That's quartz there, and that's where the Shining Rock gets its name. And first time I went up to Shining Rock was in 1974, I believe. And at that time, the rocks were much more exposed. That area was still recovering and is still recovering from some fires that happened back in the 1930s and 40s that really pretty well burnt that whole area. If you ever walk across Tennant Mountain and Black Balsam, which are very popular hikes, you know that it's not very forested. Well, when I first started going up there, it was mostly just grass, not even trees, not undergrowth, not brush, under blueberries, anything like that. It was just grass. And you could walk around up there just about anywhere you wanted to go without having to trail. That's not possible now because you get hung up or lost. But Shining Rock, at that time, the rocks were really obvious and exposed and easy to see. But now when you go there now, you kind of have to hunt around to find them and to get to the top of them where you can see this photo. But that's looking back towards the mountains in the very background there. That's Plot Balsam. There's Mountain Lowry. There's Water Rock. That could be Browning there, and that might be Water Rock. Well, actually, I think this might be Klingman's Dome right here. And there's Water Rock and Mountain Lowry and Plot Balsam. And then this is the ridge of the Smokies back in there. So a lot of people don't realize what you can see when you get up high like that and how far you can see. One time I was in Shining Rock and I was pointing out the Black Mountains to an older gentleman who was the native. He'd hunted that area and been there for years, and told him, there's the Black Mountains. He said, hell no, that ain't the Black Mountains. You can't see them from here. And I didn't want to argue with him, but they were the Black Mountains. And this mountain here is Richland Balsam right there. And this ridge runs all the way down through Deep Gap, over Lick Stonebald, and down into Canton. Goes all the way from the highest point on the parkway all the way to Canton. If you ever look on one of the raised relief topo maps, you can get a much better idea of how the ridges are aligned and how they run through the county. We're on the Knoxville map, actually. So I'll just run through a few of these, and this is with my phone now. This is the Haywood County Fairgrounds. I took that a couple of years ago. This is a close-up of a pack saddle, what we call the pack saddle, or a saddleback caterpillar. And has anybody ever gotten stung by one of those? I mean, it hurts. Let's put it that way. Haywood County just has so many great mountain scenes, farm scenes, and I don't really like to take pictures from my car, but occasionally it's not good to just get out and start jump out and start taking pictures. I like to try to respect the privacy of the landowner, and there's nothing illegal really or wrong with taking a photo if you're on the road, from the road. So sometimes I'll do drive-by shootings like this one here where I stayed in my car. I did have an instance once when a fellow pulled a shotgun on me because I had stopped in front of his house to take a picture of a church that was across the road from him, and he didn't like it. I talked myself out of that situation without any issues. Here's a Blue Ridge Parkway overlook scene. Iconic. There's a Looking Glass Rock over to the right, and got to get up early for a sunrise shot. And one of the things that I think is important, a lot of people don't realize, is that it does involve some planning. And particularly if you're trying to, you're seeking out a certain type of image, you kind of need to scout out the area. You kind of got to know where the overlook is or where the trail that leads to the rock that you want to get on is. You know, you might, you know, luck might prevail and you might get a great shot, but you know, it's better to kind of have a sense of what you want to do. And so you can time it, you know, especially if you're going with a partner, you know, there's got to meet so-and-so at such a time. And we got to be here at this place at this particular place, and, you know, to take this photo. And, but one of the things I really like to do is just sort of just travel around and see what I can find. This is actually not in Haywood County, but just to, you know, I like to go by myself a lot because you don't have anything drawing away your focus away from your ability to, you know, scramble down a bank to get a photo or stop and take as long as you want and chase a butterfly, whatever. And you're not worried about, you know, somebody sitting in the car waiting on you or, you know, saying, I wish you would hurry and take that picture, you know. So I do like to go by myself quite often. And there's Devil's Courthouse. And this is one of the places on the Parkway where, you know, they did those major cuts. And so I'm all the time looking for some unusual aspect. You know, I just love these rocks were wet and they were picking up the reflection of the sunrise there, you know. So actually that was the sunset, I'm sorry. And you know, I just thought, wow, how do I incorporate that into a photo? So I moved around. I took a bunch of different photos of the same scene. I worked with, you know, my composition and tried to find something interesting. And, you know, some people say, do you edit your photos? And my answer is yes. Most of them I do edit for clarity, contrast. You know, I don't usually change colors and, you know, too much or anything like that unless it's, in other words, I want it to represent what I saw and what I felt when I was there and taking the photo. And so that's my idea behind processing. And then sometimes I don't need to process a photo if the light is right and everything is comes together. You know, you might get a perfect exposure, but that's not always the case. And I've seen people that say, well, I don't do anything to my photos. I take them out of what I get out of the camera is what you see. And what they don't realize is that they don't realize that if you're shooting a digital camera and you're not shooting in RAW, which is the unedited photo, and you're getting a JPEG from your camera, you've edited that photo because the JPEG is edited by the camera. You've let the camera edit the photo for you, but it is an edited photo. And, you know, so I used to shoot RAW, which is a very large file, and it has to be converted over into something you can edit. But with my phone, all of the editing is done right there on my phone within the photo app and everything. I'm sure y'all are probably doing the same thing, familiar with this. One of the things I put this photo in here for a reason, and I don't know how many of you, you know, are really serious about your phone photography, but one of the things I found that you can do, say this was kind of a cloudy, dreary day, and I wanted those berries to pop out. I turned my flash on, and I used the flash. And what happened is the flash illuminated the berries in front, but it balanced out the exposure, so even all of the things in the back were also you could see it, but it just brought those. So you can do that with say if you're taking a picture of a person and there's a strong light or backlight, just turn your camera flash on, and that will kind of illuminate the front right in front of your lens, and you can it'll eliminate some of those harsh shadows that you get sometimes. One of the things I always tell people too is that look for details, look for the things that, little compositions. So many people are they're in all of these grand scenes, grand sunsets, grand sunrises, rows and rows of mountains. And those are all great. But for me, I like to find some interesting smaller compositions and close-ups and things that make you, that create a whole different sense of make you think about things a little differently and just to kind of change it up, but also just to show people what I've been seeing, and really a lot of great photography, I would say most great photography is really all about the light. If I had come out here and taken this photo when the sun was directly overhead and the shadows would be squatty and, it wouldn't have that warmth of light. So, there's that golden hour thing, an hour before sunlight, hour after sunlight. That's something that's important to know too. So this was taken from one of the highest places in Haywood County. That's from near Mount Gio, which is the highest peak in Haywood County. And I've only been there once, but and this was taken from Shuckstack Tower over in the Smokies. I climbed the tower for that. So a lot of these images you just can't get by. This was on a 25-mile hike that I did last year. A lot of these images you just can't get unless you're out there. You have to be out there to get them. And that's a big part of photography and what I do as a photographer. I wanted to do one more thing. I know my time is drawing nigh here. I wanted to mention that one of the things that I've been doing lately is I have been writing poems to go with my photos. And if you're my Facebook friend, you probably already know this, but I have one here this is a fairly recent one, and it's about an old store. I'm going to show you go back here to the screen. And sometimes when I start looking through my photos, well, there it is again. Let's see here. I see these images that make me think, about the image that I'm looking for, So and I've done writing and, I've written newspaper articles, magazine articles, things like that over the years. But to me, poetry was something that I'd really never messed with. And I decided to, I don't know, it just kind of came naturally. I love words. I love how visual you can get with words and in describing something and actually make somebody visualize it, just from words. And but so now you don't really have to visualize everything, but this is a starting point. So this is an old store, and so I will read you the poem that I wrote about this old store. And if you go on my Facebook page, you can find lots of my poems and my Instagram account as well. But this is called A Country Store's Lament. Gone are scuffling feet across my dusty floor, nor do old friends meet or pass through my door. Gone are news stories told neighbor to neighbor, who was ill or who suffered injuries, whose son went off to war. Gone are life sounds, dogs, goats, and grunting shoats, laughter making the rounds, and politicians working up votes. Gone are the basic goods. I had tools and other ingredients that mix with sweat and blood to make a hard life more lenient. Gone is my scent, so distinct, of humanity and earth, primitively succinct. The smell of life from death to birth. P.S. Gone is my Gone now is my mission to serve the community, but I have a new ambition as a photo opportunity. So I kind of ended that with a little comedic, little comedy anyway. So, that's just something I've been into lately. I'm not, people are asking me, when are you going to do a book? And, I think I probably will eventually, a book of poetry and photography, and I'll try to let everybody know so you can all buy one. But I know, any questions? I know I've taken up most of my time here, but anybody have any questions or comments?
Thank you, Ed. Do we have any questions?
Have you done any of the rhododendron in the month of May?
I have. I don't know if I have any in this section series of. Well, here's one that is not rhododendron, but it's what we call ivy. Sure, you've heard. Sure you've heard people call this ivy if you've been around here long enough. This is mountain laurel, and it's not related exactly to rhododendron, but it's one of my favorites. And I also have a poem, if I can find it, that I wrote about this photo, and I'll read that for you, and then maybe that'll be good. When the ivy blooms along shady streams and trout rise and splash at mayflies and midges, memories flow sweetly like pure Blue Ridge water. When patchwork shadows of towering thunderheads drift over the smoky green mountains we loved so much, I still hear your laugh when the ivy blooms. So, these images are memories for me in a lot of ways. And that's what I think of. I think I see lots of things that people I've known, experiences I've had, and they just got to come out somehow or another. So anyway, that's where I'm at this point in time, other than I'm taking care of all the stuff in the background for my wife so that she can keep on painting. And we hung one of her big paintings just the other day. But so that's it.
Ed, this is Ron Leatherwood. I'd like to ask, are you still doing screen t-shirts? Because I remember back 1975 or 76, you did one for the FBN construction company that I still have, the Fly By Night construction company.
No, I am not doing t-shirts. I left that part out for some reason or another, but my wife and I, for many years, for about 17 or 18 years, we designed and screen printed t-shirts. And we had our own line of nature and wildlife designs that we marketed and sold. We sold them nationwide. We had a mail order catalog. We sold them we shipped some across to France and Germany. And then we also did a lot of custom screen printing. We did FBN, which was Fly By Night construction. I'm sure you'd hire those guys. And
formulated building naturalistically.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I had it all backwards. And and I did a lot of the Moonlight Race t-shirts back in the 90s. Did a bunch of the Folk Moot t-shirts, and usually I would do the artwork for those t-shirts, and I did them some by hand with a pen on a piece of paper, and I did some of them with computer using Corel Draw. That's what I used mostly, Corel Draw. And but that was a tough business, very demanding, and had a lot of deadlines and things like that I had to meet. And I don't enjoy that much anymore, no deadline stuff. I'm sure y'all understand the deadline thing. anyway.
I had one of their T-shirts. It was a red-tailed hawk.
Yes, that was one of my most popular.
From the time we left in 1990, and I still had it when we came back in 2003. But right now, I can't remember what happened to it. There were some beautiful T-shirts.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we, I had a lady that Red Tail Hawk T-shirt was one of probably our most popular. And I had a lady probably 10 years after we stopped printing those come to my store and had one that was in rags and just was looking for another one that was her favorite shirt of all time. So it made me feel good. I really appreciate all of the people that have supported Joe and I and our work and our artwork. Being an artist for a living it's kind of a fickle thing. Many artists work for years and never make it. We were fortunate enough to be able, and flexible enough, I guess, too, to be able to, survive as artists. We weren't always doing the artwork we wanted to do, but we were still, using our talents and abilities and know-how to make it happen. So.
Ed,
I have a question for you.
when we wrap up, Ed, would you mind staying online for just a few minutes for a personal matter after everyone's gone?
Sure.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Ed, thank you so much for being here. Really enjoyed it.
My pleasure. Thank you for asking me, Chuck. Yeah. And I could probably go on and on and on all afternoon.
We'll see you on Main Street. Let you pick up there.
Yeah, there you go.
All righty. If there's nothing else for the good of Rotary today, we will see you next Friday. Have a good week.
Thank you.
Be right with you, Ed.
Okay, I'm hanging on.
I'm going to stop recording here. Let people